Steve Williams, on behalf of Dante's Boxing Nation.
Oh, you Dante?
No, I'm not Dante.
Oh,
no.
I'm about to say, this is Dante?
No.
I finally caught Dante? Put that on camera.
Okay, it is.
I finally caught fucking Dante?
No, this ain't Dante. I'm his friend. I'm his great.
Dante's Boxing Nation, what's going on, guys? So after watching this great card this weekend, Thurman versus Porter, I wanted to talk about this great prospect that we all need to keep our eyes on. And his name is JARRET HURD. I had heard about this kid, but this was my first time watching him fight. Now, the interesting thing is, this Thurman Porter fight, it was pretty much the biggest fight, at least in terms of being relevant. It was the biggest fight to date. The only fight bigger than this fight would, of course, be Andre Ward versus Sergey Kovalev. But anyway, getting back to this card. So this was already a great card. Now, when Abner Mares versus Cuellar, once that fight was canceled, I said to myself, that really sucks, because that means there's not going to be a good undercard fight. But then I forgot we were talking about Al Haymon in the PBC series. The man that has damn near all of the best prospects under his stable. So when I thought they couldn't replace Abner Mares versus Cuellar, all of a sudden we get a fight between two really good undefeated prospects. Oscar Molina versus JARRET HURD. This fight turned out to be just as good as that Abner Mares matchup in terms of it being an undercard fight. Now let me give you guys a little bit of info on both of these fighters. Let's start with Oscar Molina. Now, for those of you guys who don't know, Oscar Molina and his brother Javier Molina, they're twins. Matter of fact, these twins were considered the best fighters in their division as amateurs. They both went to the Olympics. One represented USA and the other, he represented Mexico. Now, Oscar Molina, who fought against JARRET HURD, he has around 240 amateur fights. Oscar Molina and his twin brother, they were so good as amateurs that they even did a documentary on them. Now, what I'm about to tell you guys next proves that for many fighters, the amateurs and the pros are two totally different worlds. Some amateur boxers, they weren't that good as an amateur. And once they made that transition to the pros, they actually became much better because they had more of a pro style. Then you have the fighters like Javier and Oscar Molina, who were simply the best as amateurs. And then Oscar Molina, he ends up fighting a guy like JARRET HURD, who only had 40 amateur fights compared to Oscar Molina's 240 fights. Now, talk about a fast learning curve. You would just automatically assume the guy that has the extensive amateur pedigree, who was the best, who has 200 more fights, would automatically have the edge. But that wasn't the case. Why? Because like I just said, some fighters, they actually flourish once they become a professional. And that's what we've seen with JARRET HURD. Now, you also have the fighters that were simply the best as an amateur, and they were also simply the best as a pro. Fighters like Floyd Mayweather, Roy Jones Jr., they come to mind. Now, going back to JARRET HURD, like I said, this was my first time getting to watch him fight. And man, oh man, let me tell you, this guy is very impressive and someone that's going to make some serious waves in the 154-pound division. Let's talk about his performance. Now, as you guys probably know by now, the PBC series and Al Haymon, they often put these young, undefeated prospects in the ring pretty tough. I've seen so many fights this year on PBC where it was undefeated fighters going against other undefeated fighters. And this fight was no different. You had 2 undefeated fighters in the ring, and like I told you before, you had one guy with an extensive amateur pedigree. So JARRET HURD, he stops Oscar Molina in this fight in the final round. It was a little bit of a premature stoppage, but it was still a dominant performance by JARRET HURD. So let's talk about the fight. Some of the things that really stood out in his performance, number one was composure. Now when I think of composure, I think about Floyd Mayweather. Floyd Mayweather's composure, him being so relaxed in the ring under any circumstances, regardless if he's getting rocked by Shane Mosley, if he has someone biting his glove and tackling him like Marcos Maidana, he has someone just bullying him on the ropes. No matter what direction the fight is going in, Floyd Mayweather keeps his composure and he's very relaxed. This is something that a lot of fighters today, they do not have, is that level of composure. I thought JARRET HURD, he showed a great level of composure in this fight. He's somewhat of a tall, long fighter. A lot of tall fighters, they're very comfortable, obviously, on the outside, keeping you at the end of their jab. They usually don't have that much of an inside game. That's usually their weakness. JARRET HURD, not only was he the aggressor in this fight against Oscar Molina, but he was beating Oscar Molina on the outside and on the inside. And he was the aggressor. I'll tell you right now, when you are trying to outbox someone and you're the one using the footwork, right? And the guy is coming forward, you're playing the role of the matador, and yet the bull is out jabbing you, you got a serious problem. And that's what happened in this fight. Not only was JARRET HURD the aggressor in the fight, but he was chasing Oscar Molina around the ring and out jabbing him at the same time. So he was literally better than Oscar Molina in pretty much every single department. Now, something else that was real impressive about HURD is how he would mix up his attack. With JARRET HURD, nothing is really telegraphed. He's very unpredictable. He has a terrific right uppercut that he displayed in the first round by knocking Oscar Molina down for the first time in Oscar Molina's pro career. Actually, Molina, who was throwing a good jab himself, he threw a nice, stiff, quick jab, and HURD, he timed it perfectly. He leaned to the right and caught Oscar with a perfect right uppercut and dropped him. Now, because Oscar Molina is a very good prospect as well, he has power, ring generalship, he can box a little bit, good body puncher, has a pretty good defense. Because of all of those attributes, HURD had to be very creative with his attacks. So he would do things that you don't see too many young prospects do. Instead of just throwing all hard punches at the exact same speed, it looked to me like after maybe the first or the second round, HURD, he realized he had to change things up. So what he started doing is he just started throwing punches in bunches that weren't hard punches, but he would just throw a barrage of little shots just to basically set Molina up with a hard shot or a couple of hard shots eventually. So HURD mixing his attack up with this barrage of pity-pat punches would basically pester, psychologically and physically break down Molina. Now, once again, with all of these pity-pat shots, he mixes it up with a couple of real hard, clean shots, real hard, clean uppercuts, right hands, body shots, etc. HURD, he mixed up his attack so well, Oscar Molina, he was baffled and confused. He didn't know what was coming. He didn't know if it was going to be a fastball, a curveball, a slider, or what. On top of all of this, while it was HURD that was the aggressor in this fight, usually the aggressor slows down and gets a little tired, and by the championship rounds, or in this case, by the later rounds, the boxer has more energy. But in this case, because once again, HURD kept his composure and he was so relaxed, he never really exerted a lot of energy. he kept the pressure on Molina, and it was Molina who had to exert a lot of energy because he was constantly using foot movement in the ring. He was constantly backing up, getting caught with clean shots the whole night. By the 8th, 9th, 10th round, it was Molina that was slowing down. And that's the reason why the referee eventually stopped the fight, because Molina, he started just taking shots and he wasn't coming back with anything. I still would have preferred the referee to let the fight go a little longer, but it is what it is. So that's my scout report when it comes to Jarrett Hurd. The 154-pound division, man, that is one deep-ass division. You're talking about the Charlo brothers, Demetrius Andrade, the Hammer, Erickson Lubin, Jarrett Hurd, Julian Rock Williams, and you even have Canelo Alvarez. But we already know, unfortunately, Canelo Alvarez, he ain't gonna fight none of these guys because he knows it's not gonna be like fighting Liam Smith. Now, if Canelo does wake up one day and he just happens to want to be the best or want to aspire to be the best, then he's going to have an uphill battle against any of these fighters, and I think they understand that. They, meaning Canelo Alvarez and Golden Boy Promotions. So not only do we have all of those tough junior middleweights already there at 154, but then you also have the fighters at welterweight that will eventually move up. So we'll see what happens in the future. But that's all I got for now, guys. I'm on to the next one.
This is Bobby, and you're watching Dante's Boxing Nation.